This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of the award winning Adventures in Compliance, the podcast where we look at the Sherlock Holmes short stories, movies, novels, and related material from the angle of compliance. In this season, we're going to take up the novels of Arthur Conan Doyle around Sherlock Holmes. Of course, there are four of them: A Study in Scarlet, Hound of the Baskervilles, perhaps the most famous Sherlock Holmes story, The Sign of Four, and The Valley of Fear. We're going to take a deep dive into each one of these novels and going to explore them over four podcasts. So it'll be over the next 4 months that we'll be taking a deep dive into this season. The novels, in many ways, fill in the gaps about how and why and what Holmes does, and they're really a delicious deep dive exploration of Sherlock Holmes, his methods, his friendship with Watson, more of the backstory on Watson. And if you have the opportunity, they're relatively short, about 100 to 125 pages per novel. I would urge you to read these novels in their entirety. You can collect them in one work and do that. And I had a ton of fun reading them and preparing for this new season. There are some great stories in here, and I know you will enjoy them. And I hope you will enjoy this season of Adventures in Compliance really as much as I've enjoyed reading the stories. Today, we're going to conclude our special 4-part series on this new season of Adventures in Compliance by looking at some of the lessons for a business case for compliance as demonstrated in A Study in Scarlet. I know you'll enjoy this episode. For this concluding episode in our special 4-part series in the new season of Adventures in Compliance, we've journeyed through the ethical, investigative, and leadership lessons in Conan Doyle's foundational Sherlock Holmes novel, A Study in Scarlet. Today, to conclude this 4-part series, I wanted to take a look from yet another perspective, exploring the novel for its compelling insights into critical business practices and how they might be drawn upon by a compliance professional. Sherlock Holmes is not simply the world's greatest fictional detective. He is also an insightful instructor in the art of business. So I'm going to take a look at 5 top lessons learned from Holmes' first novel and how compliance professionals can incorporate these lessons into a best practices compliance program. Number 1, cultivating diversified skill sets to foster innovation. When Dr. Watson first meets Holmes, we see the convergence of 2 dramatically different skill sets. Watson, practical and grounded, complements Holmes' exceptional analytical acumen and eccentric genius. The pairing is significant as Holmes greatly benefits from Watson's structured and methodical approach, developed from Watson's training as a medical professional and his disciplined experience as a soldier. In business compliance, it is essential to recognize the power of multidisciplinary teams. Just as Watson's medical insights were crucial to Holmes' understanding of a crime, a strong compliance function requires input from various corporate functions such as legal, finance, HR, IT, and operations. Encouraging collaboration across different departments brings about innovative compliance solutions that one-dimensional thinking simply cannot match. So what's the compliance best practice? Build cross-functional compliance teams, create environments where open dialogue between business units becomes standard operating procedures. 2, trust encourages risk-taking and innovation. A cornerstone of the partnership between Holmes and Watson was their mutual trust. Watson's unwavering trust in Holmes gave Holmes the liberty to experiment boldly, occasionally taking unconventional paths toward solutions. This trusted partnership allowed Holmes to embrace creative risk-taking, essential to solving complex problems. In compliance programs, trust similarly fuels innovation. A compliance program that emphasizes trust will empower employees to bring forth concerns or innovative ideas without the fear of reprisal. Trust-based compliance culture is a fertile ground for employee engagement, proactive problem-solving, and thoughtful risk-taking. For the compliance best practice, foster a speak-up culture by actively demonstrating management's responsiveness to employee concerns. Pair speak up with listen up. Compliance officers must reinforce trust at all organizational levels. Number 3, objective feedback sharpens analytical capabilities. Sherlock Holmes, despite his brilliance, greatly valued Watson's objective insights. Holmes knew that an internal perspective could identify blind spots that he himself might overlook. Watson also often provided straightforward observations that sharpened Holmes' analysis and effectively guiding Holmes towards the solution by challenging his assumptions. In compliance programs, there must be a level of trust, which similarly can fuel innovation. A company culture that emphasizes trust will empower employees to bring forth concerns or innovative ideas without the fear of reprisal. A trust-based compliance culture is a fertile ground for employee engagement, proactive problem solving, and thoughtful risk taking. For the compliance best practice, foster a culture of speak up by actively demonstrating employee concerns. Compliance officers must reinforce trust at all organizational levels. Number 3, objective feedback sharpens analytical capabilities. Holmes, despite his brilliance, greatly valued Watson's objective insights. Holmes knew that an internal perspective could identify blind spots he himself might overlook. Watson often provided straightforward observations that sharpened Holmes' analysis, effectively guiding Holmes toward solutions by challenging his assumptions. In compliance, objective and candid feedback mechanisms are equally critical. Regular audits, external compliance reviews, and independent assessments act as the compliance function's Dr. Watson. They help organizations identify areas needing improvement and provide a comprehensive understanding of compliance health. The compliance best practice takeaway is implement structured objective compliance audits and reviews, ideally conducted by independent parties, to ensure the continuous refinement of compliance strategies. Number 4, emotional intelligence enhances decision making. While Holmes is famed for his detached logic, Watson's emotional intelligence often provided the necessary balance to their investigative endeavors. Watson's sensitivity towards human behavior complemented Holmes' sharp logic and brought depth to their investigative methods. This integration of emotional intelligence and logical rigor provided pivotal in understanding suspects and witnesses alike. Likewise, compliance is not merely about adhering to rules. It is about understanding and managing human behavior within the organizational context. Compliance officers who understand employee motivations and organizational psychology can tailor compliance programs more effectively, addressing root behavioral drivers of misconduct rather than superficial symptoms alone. The compliance best practice is to incorporate emotional intelligence training for compliance officers and team members. Ensure compliance communications demonstrates empathy and understanding, increasing employee acceptance and effectiveness. Lesson number 5. Structured communications optimizes organizational clarity. Sherlock Holmes' partnership with Watson was not simply effective because of their complementary skills. It was also exceptionally productive due to clear and structured communications. Holmes' meticulous and precise effectively communicated his deductions, theories, and investigative approaches, thus providing Watson with clarity and alignment on their strategy. Structured communications in a corporate compliance setting is similarly crucial. Clear, concise, and frequent communications from compliance teams ensure that organizational members understand their responsibility, compliance obligations, and the reasoning behind the compliance initiatives. Transparency and clarity can signify reduced missteps caused by misunderstandings and ambiguity. For the compliance best practice, develop a structured communication plan, including regular compliance updates, clear policy documentation, accessible training materials, and transparent reporting channels. Next, I'd like to turn to integrating some of Holmes' business wisdom into your compliance function. In a study in Scarlet, Holmes does not simply solve mysteries, he implicitly outlines best practices that remain strikingly relevant to today's compliance landscape. For compliance professionals, these lessons can translate directly into actionable strategies to fortify compliance frameworks and improve organizational ethics and drive business success. So what are they? Well, things like a cross-functional synergy. Ensure diverse department insights for inform your compliance program design. Just as Holmes utilized Watson's medical expertise, leverage cross-departmental collaboration to create more robust, adaptive compliance structures. 2. trust-based culture. We previously mentioned this, but compliance innovation thrives where trust prevails. Demonstrating transparency and accountability cultivates trust and encourages innovation, compliance, problem solving. 3, objective and independent. Regular external interviews and independent feedback ensure compliance programs remain sharp and attuned to emerging risks. Utilize this strategy to help you both monitor your program and engage in continuous improvement. Next, emotional insight. Enhance compliance effectiveness through emotional intelligence. Understanding employees' emotional and psychological motivations can significantly bolster compliance messaging and training efficacy. And finally, clear, structured communications. Establish a robust framework for clear compliance communication. This prevents ambiguity and ensures alignment across all organization levels. So as we come to the end of our exploration of A Study in Scarlet, we conclude that Holmes, though fictional, provides a powerful template for the contemporary business compliance officer. By embodying these 5 business principles I observed in A Study in Scarlet, compliance professionals can ensure their programs are not only robust and effective, but also proactive and dynamic. Holmes reminds us that compliance, much like detective work, demands constant vigilance, a diverse skill set, structured communications, emotional intelligence, and trust-based relationships. In the face of modern compliance challenges ranging from regulatory upheavals and technological advancements to shifting corporate cultures, these timeless lessons from Holmes offer valuable strategies that corporate compliance professionals can immediately deploy. As compliance programs continually evolve, embracing these lessons will position compliance officers not merely as corporate watchdogs, but as critical strategic partner enablers. Remember Holmes' words: there is nothing like firsthand evidence. Compliance leaders must continually seek firsthand insights into organizational behavior, culture, and practices. By applying Sherlockian clarity, logic, and strategic thinking to our compliance programs, we can transform compliance from a reactive safeguard to a proactive catalyst for ethical business excellence. Let Holmes inspire your compliance journey, empowering your team to navigate the complexities of corporate ethics and integrity with confidence and innovation. Embrace these 5 business lessons, apply them rigorously, and watch your compliance program thrive. As Holmes would undoubtedly advise, the game's afoot, so let's all play it well. This concludes our initial look into the Sherlock Holmes novel, A Study in Scarlet. As I mentioned at the start, I hope you will take the time to read this novel. It's a great detective novel, lots of lessons learned for the compliance professional, and lots to say about compliance programs, and ethics in an organization. The award-winning podcast, Adventures in Compliance, is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Would you like to start a podcast? In 2025, I think it would be a great time for you to start a podcast, and you can post it on the Compliance Podcast Network, the only podcast network in compliance and by far one of the most popular B2B podcast network around. So if you'd like more information on starting a podcast, please give me a shout. You can reach me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I mentioned at the start of this podcast, this episode concludes our special 4-part series on A Study in Scarlet, the very first Sherlock Holmes novel by A. Conan Doyle. We're going to be off for Memorial Day, but we'll be back in June where we're going to take up The Sign of Four. It's a rollicking great adventure, lots of action in Afghanistan and England. Of course, Watson meets his soon-to-be wife, Mary Marston, in this episode, so we even got a bit of romance. So I hope you will plan to join us in June where we take a look at The Sign of Four.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day, one actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network, available wherever you listen to podcasts.